Hello Internet, Jazza here. Over the past couple of weeks, it's become apparent that a setting available on YouTube called restricted mode, which is often used by schools, public institutions, libraries, has been restricting LGBTQ+ content based on purely the fact that it is LGBTQ+. Based on an awful lot of research done by the people who are directly affected by this block, including me myself, it seems that restricted mode blocks stuff purely for the fact that it acknowledges LGBTQ+ people. The mode can completely remove whole channels that talk about queer topics from the internet, regardless as to whether or not they talk about sexually explicit or adult-themed content. The kind of stuff that you would expect to be blocked in a restricted mode. I hope that I don't need to tell you why this is worrying, but this is super worrying. This affects some of the most vulnerable people in the world. Historically, YouTube has been used as a resource by millions and millions of young people to try and find other people like themselves, to try and find role models, to try and prove to themselves that there is going to be a light at the end of the tunnel if they are being bullied or going through some hell because of their gender or sexual identity. One of the most powerful of these videos, not just the now famed coming out video, was the It Gets Better project started by the sex education columnist Dan Savage and his husband in 2010. In the wake of a string of queer teen suicides, he wanted to make sure that people knew that life gets better after high school for LGBTQ+ kids. That video is incredibly powerful and important for children who are struggling with their own identities. And some of these children, because of restrictions of internet access at home, are only going to be able to access the internet from places like libraries, from places like school. But this wonderful resource, this video, the start of one of the greatest, I think, campaigns in YouTube's history, is restricted in restricted mode. You can't view it, it doesn't exist. Unfortunately, this is not the first time that YouTube has trodden on its queer community. In 2013, we had the integration with Google+, where people had to use their real names, despite the fact that especially queer kids use the anonymity of the internet as a place to be able to reach out and discover more about their own gender identities and sexualities. We also saw in late 2016 the demonetization fiasco, where a load of videos had apparently been demonetized, creators couldn't earn any money off of them, and this affected LGBT content. And now we've discovered that YouTube's restricted mode is also accidentally, clearly, I don't believe that YouTube is malicious in this way, it's full of wonderful people who work there, but they've accidentally affected the queer community again. YouTube, after a lot of badgering from creators and people behind the scenes, have released a blog post that admitted that the tool was not working in the way that it should do, and that they were working to fix it. We needed to make a lot of noise for them to get to that point. There was a tweet that they released initially that was basically like, I'm sorry, but we're sorry you feel this way, guys. I can send you loads of YouTube videos, YouTube, that show that that's not a good way of dealing with criticism. It's really important to say as well that it's not just LGBTQ+ content that has been affected by the restricted mode on YouTube. It may only account for about 1.5% of views, but I've seen the gaming channel Outbox Extra have videos restricted in restricted mode. I've heard people say that skydiving videos have been restricted in restricted mode. It was the case that Childline's whole channel was blocked, where they talk about vulnerable issues for young people and are used as an educational resource. This was blocked in restricted mode. It's now been fixed, but it is really clear that this feature on YouTube is not working how it should work. As I said, YouTube have now said that they are trying to fix the tool, and I think that they think that that they aren't going to need to explain themselves to us anymore. But I think that we have them on the back foot, and we should now be making our, I don't want to say demands because I want to be incredibly polite, and YouTube are good guys, they're listening to us. But I have set up a petition on change.org that has some really reasonable requests when it comes to how restricted mode functions and how it affects us, and more importantly, the people that are going to be most affected by this, the vulnerable kids who need these resources. So after talking with a load of creators about what our expectations should be from YouTube when it comes to restricted mode, we've come up with 3 very clear, hopefully realistic goals that we want rectified by YouTube. First of all, when a video on a channel has been removed and is blocked on restricted mode, tell that channel. YouTube's current suggested method of figuring out if your videos have been restricted in restricted mode is to turn on restricted mode and search to see if the videos appear, or go directly to the video's URL to see if it's viewable. Hey YouTube, some people have thousands and thousands of videos on their channel, and to use Silicon Valley jargon, that's not something that's scalable. Let us know. Our second expectation of YouTube is for them to give us guidelines that indicate what content is filtered out under restricted mode. Is it sexually suggestive? Is it moderately violent? Does it include the promotion of drugs? Is it too excessively swearing? We should be able to know what types of content are being affected by this restriction, and especially if we want to be able to reach out to some of those most vulnerable children that I suggested would only be able to access the internet and these resources in these public spaces that use restricted mode, then we need to know how we can adjust our content so that those children can still find these resources. Thirdly and finally, we expect YouTube to give channels a clear way to appeal what they see as unjustified inclusion in restricted content. In the same way that video demonetization can be appealed, you can say, YouTube, you've got this wrong. We should be able to do that with restricted content as well. And you know what, YouTube, that's going to make your tool work better as well. It's going to ensure that whatever algorithm you've set up isn't deciding that anything that's vaguely queer gets restricted. This is the human element in this. Tell us when something has been restricted, why something has been restricted, and let us tell you when we think you've got it wrong. I urge you, if you're a creator or you're a viewer, because this affects all of us, and not just those from the queer community, please go to change.org, sign this petition. There are lots of people working on this behind the scenes, but this gives us more clout if we can get as many people as possible to voice the fact that this is what we want from YouTube. It's very easy for them to ignore us, and the YouTube community often flares up for a couple of days and then dies down. Let's not let that happen this time. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, tweet me. If you have any comments, tweet me, leave a comment below. I have been running with oranges. My name is Jazza. Toodaloo.